Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is entitled Sister Demands I Babysit for Free. I sent her the bill. I've always been close with my older sister, Bianca. Growing up, we were best friends despite our 4-year age gap. She was the cool big sister who let me tag along with her friends, gave me advice about boys, and stood up for me when kids at school were mean. When Bianca got married at 24 and had her first child at 26, I was thrilled to become an aunt. I adored my little niece, Maya, and was happy to babysit whenever Bianca needed a break. As Maya got older and Bianca had 2 more kids, twins Roger and Gloria, I remained a constant presence in their lives. But somehow along the way, things started to change. Bianca went from asking me to babysit as a favor to expecting it as an obligation. What started as the occasional Friday night turned into multiple days a week. She'd drop the kids off unannounced, saying she had errands to run, or she'd call an hour before her shift at work started, insisting I watch the kids because her usual sitter canceled. At first, I tried to be understanding. Raising 3 young kids is tough, and Bianca's husband worked long hours as a surgeon. I knew she was stressed and overwhelmed, but as the demands on my time increased, I started to feel taken advantage of. One particularly frustrating incident occurred on my 30th birthday. I had planned a weekend getaway with my girlfriends to celebrate. We'd booked a cute Airbnb in wine country and had a whole itinerary of wine tastings and spa treatments lined up. I'd been looking forward to it for months. 2 days before we were set to leave, Bianca called me in a panic. "Addison, I need a huge favor," she said, her voice frantic. "Steven's grandmother just passed away, and we have to fly out to Ohio for the funeral this weekend. I need you to watch the kids." My heart sank. "Oh, Bianca, I'm so sorry about Steven's grandmother, but I can't this weekend. Remember, it's my 30th birthday trip?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh, right," Bianca said, not sounding particularly sympathetic. "But can't you reschedule? This is an emergency. We don't have anyone else who can watch the kids for 3 days." I felt a flash of anger. "Bianca, I've had this plan for months. I can't just cancel on everyone at the last minute. Isn't there anyone else you could ask? You know, Mom and Dad are on that cruise," Bianca said, "and all our other family is back in Ohio. Please, Addison, I'm desperate here." I closed my eyes, already knowing I was going to cave. "Fine," I said with a sigh. "I'll watch them, but you owe me big time." Thank you," Bianca gushed. "You're a lifesaver. I'll drop them off tomorrow afternoon." As I hung up the phone, I felt a mixture of resentment and guilt. I knew it wasn't Bianca's fault that there was a death in the family, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she'd taken advantage of the situation, knowing I wouldn't say no. My friends were understanding but disappointed when I told them I had to cancel. I spent my 30th birthday weekend not sipping wine in a hot tub, but refereeing fights between Maya and the twins and scrubbing marker off my walls. That was far from the only time Bianca's demands derailed my plans. There was the time she asked me to pick up the kids from school every day for 2 weeks while she was on a big project at work. I had to rearrange my entire work schedule and miss my weekly yoga class to accommodate her. Or the time she guilted me into canceling a first date to babysit so she and Steven could go on a concert. "Come on, it's just a first date," she'd said. "You can reschedule. This band only comes to town once every few years." The guy never called me back after I canceled at the last minute. Then there was the disastrous camping trip. I've been planning a weekend getaway with my boyfriend for months. We were going to a beautiful state park about 3 hours away with plans to hike and stargaze. We had just finished setting up our tent when my phone rang. It was Bianca, and she sounded like she was crying. "Addison, I need you," she sobbed. "I got into a huge fight with Steven and he stormed out. I don't know where he went. I can't handle the kids alone right now. Can you please come over?" I looked helplessly at my boyfriend, who had been so excited about this trip. "Bianca, I'm 3 hours away on a camping trip. I can't just leave." "Please," she begged. "I don't have anyone else to call. I'm really struggling here." I felt torn. On one hand, my sister was clearly in distress. On the other, I was so tired of dropping everything for her. In the end, my guilt won out. I apologized profusely to my boyfriend as we packed up our barely used campsite. He was understanding but clearly disappointed. We broke up a few weeks later, with him citing my inability to prioritize our relationship as one of the reasons. The incidents kept piling up. Bianca would call me at work, insisting I leave early to pick up a sick kid from school. She'd volunteer me to chaperone field trips without asking. She even tried to guilt me into using my vacation days to watch her kids while she and Steven went on a second honeymoon. Each time, I found myself giving in. Even as my resentment grew, I loved my nieces and nephew, but I was starting to feel like my own life was slipping away. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in June. I had just gotten home from a long day at work, and I was looking forward to a quiet night in. I had changed into comfy clothes and was about to start cooking dinner when my doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Bianca standing there with Maya, Roger, and Gloria in tow. The kids immediately ran past me into the house while Bianca thrust a diaper bag into my arms. "Thank God you're home," she said breathlessly. "I have to work emergency and need you to watch the kids for a few hours." I blinked in confusion. "What? Bianca, I just got home from work. I'm exhausted and was about to make dinner." She waved her hand dismissively. "You can order a pizza or something. The kids already ate. Anyway, I shouldn't be more than 3 or 4 hours. Thanks, you're a lifesaver." Before I could protest further, she turned and hurried back to her minivan. I stood there dumbfounded as she drove away, leaving me with 3 energetic children under the age of 8. Sighing heavily, I closed the door and turned to face my nieces and nephew. Maya was already sprawled on the couch, watching TV, while the twins were running circles around my coffee table. "All right, guys," I said, mustering up some enthusiasm. "Looks like we're having an impromptu sleepover. Who wants to help me make some popcorn?" The next few hours were chaos. The kids were wound up and overtired, fighting over toys and refusing to settle down. By the time Bianca finally came to pick them up at 11 p.m., I was at my wit's end. "Thanks so much for watching them," Bianca said as she herded the kids toward the door. "You're such a great aunt." "Bianca, wait," I said. "We need to talk about this. You can't keep dropping the kids off without warning. I have my own life and commitments." She frowned. "What's the big deal? It's not like you have kids of your own to take care of. You should be happy to spend time with your nieces and nephew." I felt a flash of anger at her dismissive tone. "Of course I love spending time with them, but that doesn't mean I'm available 24/7 to be your free babysitter. I work full-time and have other obligations. You need to respect my time." Bianca rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, watching kids for a few hours is hardly work. Stop being so dramatic. Anyway, I've got to get these 3 to bed. Thanks again." And with that, she was gone, leaving me fuming in my doorway. I couldn't believe how entitled she was acting. It was clear a more drastic measure was needed to get through to her. The next day, I sat down at my computer and created a detailed spreadsheet. I went through my calendar for the past 6 months, meticulously noting every time Bianca had asked me to babysit. I calculated the hours, including the times she'd been late picking up the kids. As I scrolled through my calendar, more and more incidents came flooding back. There was the time she'd asked me to take a half day off to take Maya to a doctor's appointment because she had an important meeting. Or the Sunday morning she dropped off the twins at 7 a.m. because she and Steven wanted to go to brunch with friends. I remembered the night of my office holiday party, an event I'd been looking forward to for weeks. I bought a new dress and was excited to socialize with my coworkers outside of work. 20 minutes before I was supposed to leave, Bianca called. "The babysitter canceled last minute," she'd said. "Can you please watch the kids? It'll only be for a few hours." Those few hours turned into the entire night. I missed my party entirely, while Bianca and Steven stayed out until 2 a.m. Then there was the time she'd asked me to take a week off work to help her when Steven was out of town on a medical conference. I'd used up my previous vacation days only for Bianca to spend most of the time meeting friends for lunch or getting her nails done while I watched the kids. As I tallied up all these incidents, I was shocked by the sheer amount of time I'd spent babysitting. No wonder I felt like I had no life of my own lately. I researched the average hourly rate for babysitters in our area. I was surprised to discover it was $18 an hour for one child, with an additional $2 to $5 per hour for each additional child. Using those figures, I tallied up what Bianca would have owed if she'd been paying me a fair wage for my time. The total came to a staggering $4,752. I printed out the itemized bill and tucked it into an envelope. Part of me felt guilty. Was I taking things too far? But I pushed that doubt aside. Bianca needed a wake-up call about how much she'd been taking advantage of me. The following weekend, our family gathered for our monthly Sunday dinner at our parents' house. As we were finishing up dessert, I pulled the envelope from my purse. "Oh, Bianca," I said casually, "I almost forgot. I have something for you." I slid the envelope across the table. Bianca opened it curiously, her eyes widening as she scanned the contents. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. "It's a bill," I replied calmly, "for all the babysitting I've done over the past 6 months. Bianca's face turned red. "Are you kidding me? You expect me to pay you for watching your own nieces and nephew? If you're going to treat me like your personal nanny, then yes, I expect to be compensated like one," I said. "Girls, what's going on?" our mom interjected, looking concerned. I explained the situation, how Bianca had been constantly dumping her kids on me with no notice, treating my time as less valuable than hers. I recounted some of the major incidents: my ruined 30th birthday trip, the canceled camping weekend, the missed holiday party. "I love Maya, Roger, and Gloria," I said, "but I'm not a free 24/7 babysitting service. If Bianca wants to keep relying on me this heavily for childcare, she needs to treat it like the job it is and pay me accordingly." Bianca scoffed. "This is ridiculous. Your family. Family helps each other out." "There's a difference between occasionally helping out and being taken advantage of," I countered. "I've watched your kids for over 250 hours in the past 6 months. That goes way beyond a casual favor." Our dad spoke up. "Bianca, your sister has a point. It's not fair to expect her to drop everything whenever you need childcare. You should be more respectful of her time." Bianca's eyes filled with angry tears. "I can't believe you're all ganging up on me. I'm a working mother trying to juggle a million things. Excuse me for thinking I could count on my family for support." She stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. "Come on, kids, we're leaving. Clearly, we're not welcome here anymore." "Bianca, don't be dramatic," our mom pleaded. But Bianca was already storming out, dragging her confused children behind her. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table, Finally, our dad sighed heavily. Well, that could have gone better, he said. I felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I shouldn't have sprung it on her like that. I just didn't know how else to get through to her. My mom reached over and squeezed my hand. You didn't do anything wrong, sweetie. Bianca needs to learn to respect boundaries. Hopefully she'll cool off and realize you had a valid point. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Over the next few weeks, Bianca refused to speak to me. She ignored my calls and texts and didn't show up to our next family dinner. When I did see her around town, she turned the other way to avoid me. It was painful being estranged from my sister. I missed her, and I especially missed seeing my nieces and nephew. But I knew I had to stand firm. If I caved now, nothing would change. About a month after the incident, as our family had taken to calling it, I got a call from our mom. Your sister is in a bind, she said. Her regular sitter canceled last minute, and she has an important meeting she can't reschedule. She wanted me to ask if you'd be willing to watch the kids tomorrow afternoon. I took a deep breath. I'll be happy to watch them, I said, as long as Bianca understands that my time and effort have value. I'll need to be paid the standard rate. My mom was quiet for a moment. I'll let her know, she finally said. An hour later, I got a text from Bianca. Fine, I'll pay you. Be at my house at 1 p.m. tomorrow. It wasn't exactly a warm reconciliation, but it was a start. The next day, I showed up at Bianca's house promptly at 1 p.m. She answered the door with a tight smile. Thanks for doing this, she said stiffly. I should be back around 5. There is money on the counter to order pizza for dinner if I'm running late. I nodded. Sounds good. Have a good meeting. As soon as Bianca left, the kids swarmed me with hugs and excited chatter. It warmed my heart to see how much they've missed me over the past month. We had a great afternoon together, playing games, doing crafts, and catching up. When Bianca got home at 5:30, she seemed surprised to find us all laughing together on the living room floor. Looks like you had fun, she said a bit grudgingly. We always have fun with Aunt Addison, Maya exclaimed. Can she babysit us more often? Bianca's expression softened slightly. We'll see, she said. Then she turned to me. So, how much do I owe you? I did some quick mental math. 4.5 hours at $22 an hour for 3 kids comes to $99. Bianca winced but pulled out her wallet. As she counted out the cash, she said quietly, I'm sorry for how I reacted before. I know I've been taking advantage of your kindness. It won't happen again. I was touched by her apology. I'm sorry too, I said. I shouldn't have sprung that bill on you in front of everyone. I just didn't know how else to get you to hear me. Bianca nodded. I get it. I wasn't listening when you tried to talk to me before. I've been so stressed and overwhelmed lately, I guess I convinced myself it was okay to lean on you so heavily, but that wasn't fair to you. I'm always happy to help out, I assured her. I love the kids and I want to be there for you. I just need some advance notice and respect for my time. Absolutely, Bianca agreed. From now on, I'll ask at least 24 hours in advance when possible, and I'll pay you a fair rate for your time. I smiled, feeling like a weight had been lifted. Thanks, sis. That means a lot. She surprised me by pulling me into a hug. I've missed you, she mumbled into my shoulder. I've missed you too, I said, blinking back tears. From that day forward, things were different between Bianca and me. True to her word, she started treating my time with more respect. She'd asked well in advance if I was available to babysit, and always insisted on paying me fairly. More importantly, we started spending time together just as sisters again. We'd meet for coffee or lunch to catch up without the kids in tow. Our relationship began to feel more balanced and mutually supportive. About 6 months after our reconciliation, Bianca invited me over for dinner one night after the kids were in bed. As we sat on her back porch sipping wine, she turned to me with a serious expression. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about how I treated you," she said, "and I owe you a bigger apology." I started to protest, but she held up a hand to stop me. "Please, let me say this," she continued. "I didn't just take advantage of your time. I was dismissive of your whole life. I acted like because you don't have kids, your time and energy were less valuable than mine. That was incredibly wrong and unfair of me." I felt a lump form in my throat. Bianca had hit on something that had bothered me for years, but I'd never quite been able to articulate. "Thank you for saying that," I said softly. "It means a lot to hear you acknowledge it." Bianca reached over and squeezed my hand. "You are so important to me and to my kids. The way you show up for us, it's not an obligation, it's a choice, and I'm incredibly grateful for it." I was touched by her vulnerability. "I want you to know I may not have kids of my own, but being an aunt is one of the most important and fulfilling parts of my life. I choose to be involved because I want to be, not out of obligation." We hugged tightly, both of us crying a little. Looking back on it now, I'm grateful for how things turned out. That itemized bill may have seemed drastic at the time, but it led to some much-needed changes in my relationship with Bianca. We had to go through some awkwardness and hurt feelings, but we came out the other side with a stronger, healthier bond. These days, I still babysit regularly for my nieces and nephew, but now it feels like a choice rather than an imposition. Bianca always asks respectfully, gives me plenty of notice, and insists on paying me fairly. More importantly, she makes an effort to support me in other ways too, watching my dog when I travel for work, helping me move to a new apartment, being there for me during a tough breakup. We found a new balance that works for both of us. I get to be the fun, involved aunt I've always wanted to be, and Bianca gets reliable childcare from someone who adores her kids. It's a win-win. So, to anyone out there struggling with family members who don't respect your time, don't be afraid to set firm boundaries. It may be uncomfortable in the moment, but it can lead to positive change. Here are my thoughts about this story. Bianca, ma'am, I get it. Being a mom is tough. I've seen my people juggling upwards of 7 young kids, and it's no joke. But damn, this woman took entitlement to a whole new level. The audacity of ruining her sister's 30th birthday trip. I was sitting here, mouth hanging open, thinking, no way she just did that. And then she kept doing it. The camping trip, the work emergencies, the random drop-offs. I was getting stressed out just reading about it. But here's the thing that really got me. The way Bianca dismissed Addison's time because she didn't have kids. That hit close to home, folks. I don't have kids either, and I've lost count of how many times people have assumed I'm just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, ready to help at a moment's notice. It's like, hello? Child-free doesn't mean responsibility-free. Now, let's talk about Addison for a second. This woman had the patience of a saint. I would have lost my shit way earlier, but when she finally snapped, oh man, that was satisfying. That itemized bill was a stroke of genius. I was cackling like a madman when I read that part. $4,752. That's a full vacation right there. Or, a lot of therapy sessions to deal with your crazy sister. But what really impressed me was how Addison handled the whole situation. She didn't just blow up and cut ties. She set boundaries, stood her ground, and gave her sister a chance to make things right. That takes some serious emotional maturity, folks. I'm taking notes over here. And Bianca's reaction? Oof. That dinner scene was uncomfortable as hell. I felt like I was right there at the table, awkwardly shoveling mashed potatoes into my mouth to avoid the tension. But you know what? I get it. Sometimes you need that wake up call, even if it's painful at first. What I love about this story is how it doesn't end with a simple, oh yeah, we made up. It shows the messy process of rebuilding a relationship, the awkwardness, the gradual changes, the deeper conversations. That part where Bianca apologized for dismissing Addison's whole life, I got a little misty-eyed, not gonna lie, and a lot of people aren't comfortable airing out this much of their personal lives on the internet, partially anonymous or not. So I feel extra thankful for the few like Addison that do. This story really made me think about my own relationships. Am I taking anyone for granted? Am I respecting people's time and boundaries? It's a good reminder that we all need to check ourselves sometimes. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't it kind of messed up to charge your own sister for babysitting? And yeah, in an ideal world, family would help each other out, no questions asked. But let's be real, we don't live in an ideal world. Sometimes you gotta put a price tag on your time to make people value it. And hey, it worked. I gotta say, I'm really glad this story had a happy ending. The image of Addison and Bianca on that porch, drinking wine and having an honest conversation, that's the good stuff right there. It gives you hope, like maybe we can all work through our family drama if we just communicate and set some boundaries. And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this. Husband demanded an open marriage out of the blue. I agreed with a twist. Up until 6 months ago, I thought I was happily married to my college sweetheart, Grayson. We've been together for over a decade, married for 5 years, and I genuinely believe we had a strong, loving relationship. Unfortunately, I was in for a rude awakening. It all started on what seemed like an ordinary Friday evening. I had just gotten home from work, looking forward to our usual pizza and movie night. Grayson was already home, sitting on the couch with an oddly serious expression on his face. Hey, we need to talk, he said as soon as I walked in. Those words sent a chill down my spine. Nothing good ever follows. We need to talk. I slowly sat down next to him, my mind racing through all the possibilities. Was he sick? Did someone die? Was he leaving me? What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Grayson took a deep breath and then dropped the bomb. I think we should open up our marriage. I felt like I've been punched in the gut. Open our marriage? Where the hell did that come from? We've never even discussed anything like this before. What? I managed to sputter out. Why, are you unhappy with our sex life? He shook his head. No, it's not that. I feel like we're missing out on experiences. We've only been with each other. Don't you wonder what else is out there? Honestly, no, I didn't. I was perfectly content with our relationship, but clearly Grayson wasn't. How long have you been thinking about this? I asked, still trying to process what was happening. A few months, he admitted. I've been doing some research and I really think this could be good for us. It could spice things up, I felt like I was in some kind of bizarre dream. My husband of 5 years was suddenly proposing we sleep with other people, and he was acting like he was suggesting we try a new restaurant. Grayson, this is a lot to take in, I said, fighting back tears. I need some time to think about this. He nodded, looking relieved that I hadn't immediately shut down the idea. Of course, take all the time you need. I just want us to consider it. I spent the next week in a daze. I couldn't focus at work. I barely slept, and I felt sick to my stomach every time I looked at Grayson. How could he want this? Wasn't I enough for him? I did some research of my own, reading countless articles and forum posts about open marriages. Some people swore by them, claiming they strengthened their relationships. Others described how it led to jealousy, resentment, and ultimately divorce. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Grayson had blindsided me with this. He'd been thinking about it for months, probably fantasizing about other women, while I'd been happily oblivious, and now he expected me to just go along with it? After a week of inner turmoil, I made my decision. I sat Grayson down for another talk. I've thought about your proposal, I began, my voice surprisingly calm, and I've decided to agree to an open marriage. Grayson's face lit up. Really? That's great. I really think this will be good for us, Abigail. I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I agree, but I have some conditions. His smile faltered a bit. Okay, what kind of conditions? First, I said, ticking off on my fingers, we each get one night a week to go out. You can do whatever you want on your night, and I can do whatever I want on mine. No questions asked. Grayson nodded slowly. That sounds fair. Second, we don't bring anyone back to our home. What happens outside stays outside. Agreed, he said quickly. Third, we use protection at all times, no exceptions. Of course, Grayson replied. Fourth, we don't discuss details with each other. I don't want to know who you're with or what you're doing, and I won't share that information about myself either. He hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. Okay, I can live with that. And finally, I said, looking him straight in the eye, if at any point either of us wants to close the marriage again, we do it immediately. No arguments. Grayson smiled, looking relieved. Those all sound reasonable. I'm so glad you're on board with this, Abigail. I really think it'll be great for us. I gave him a tight smile. We'll see. And so began our experiment with an open marriage. The first few weeks were awkward, to say the least. Grayson seemed eager to get started, going out on his designated night that very week. I, on the other hand, wasn't in any rush. On my first free night, I went to a movie by myself and then had a quiet dinner at a little cafe I'd always wanted to try. It was nice, actually. Peaceful. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something just for myself. As the weeks went by, I started to notice some changes. Grayson seemed happier, more energetic. He was more affectionate with me too, which I found both comforting and confusing. Was he compensating for something? Or was this arrangement really improving our relationship like he'd hoped? For my part, I was surprised to find that I was enjoying my newfound freedom. I started taking a pottery class on my nights out. I'd always wanted to try it, but somehow had never found the time. Now I had a designated night each week to explore new interests. I also started reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch over the years. I met up with my college roommate for drinks, had dinner with a former coworker, and even went to a concert with my high school best friend. It was like I was rediscovering parts of myself that had been dormant for years. About 2 months into our arrangement, I met James. He was in my pottery class, a charming guy with a quick wit and an easy smile. We got to talking one night after class, and before I knew it, we'd spent hours at a nearby coffee shop, just chatting and laughing. I found myself looking forward to pottery class more and more. James and I would often grab coffee afterwards, and I realized I was developing feelings for him. It was exciting and terrifying all at once. I hadn't felt those butterflies in my stomach for anyone but Grayson in over a decade. One night after class, James asked me out for dinner. I hesitated, thinking about Grayson for the first time in hours. I'm married, I blurted out. James looked surprised, then embarrassed. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You don't wear a ring, so I just assumed. I glanced down at my bare left hand. I'd stopped wearing my wedding ring a few weeks into our open marriage. It had felt dishonest somehow. It's complicated, I said with a sigh. Then, taking a deep breath, I added, My husband and I, we have an open marriage. James' eyebrow shot up. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I laughed nervously. Yeah, it's a recent development. To be honest, I'm still figuring it all out. He nodded thoughtfully. Well, in that case, my dinner invitation still stands. As friends, if you prefer, or not, it's up to you. I thought about it for a moment. This was why we'd opened the marriage, wasn't it? To explore new experiences. And yet, the thought of actually going on a date with someone else made my stomach churn. Can I think about it? I asked. James smiled warmly. Of course. Take all the time you need. I spent the next week wrestling with my feelings. On one hand, I was attracted to James and enjoyed his company. On the other hand, the thought of actually acting on those feelings felt like a betrayal, even though Grayson was almost certainly doing the same thing. In the end, I decided to go for it. I agreed to have dinner with James, and it was wonderful. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. He made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years, and when he kissed me goodnight, I felt a spark I thought I'd forgotten. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself blossoming in ways I never expected. My pottery skills were improving. I was making new friends, and yes, I was seeing James regularly. We kept things casual, but I couldn't deny the growing connection between us. At home, things with Grayson were different. We were both more relaxed, less prone to bickering over small things, but there was also a distance between us that hadn't been there before. We didn't talk as much, didn't share the little details of our days like we used to. I tried not to think too much about what Grayson was doing on his nights out. Sometimes he'd come home smelling of unfamiliar perfume, and I'd have to fight down a wave of nausea. But I reminded myself that this was what he wanted, what we'd agreed to. About 4 months into our open marriage, I noticed a shift in Grayson's behavior. He started asking more questions about how I was spending my time. He seemed irritated when I wouldn't give him details, even though that was one of our agreed-upon rules. One night, after I'd gotten home from a particularly lovely evening with James, Grayson confronted me. "Are you seeing someone?" he demanded. I raised an eyebrow. "I thought we agreed not to discuss details." "I know, but I just want to know if there's someone specific," he pressed. I sighed. "Grayson, what's this really about?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. I didn't expect you to take to this so easily. You seem different lately, happier." I felt a flash of anger. "And that's a problem?" No, of course not," he backpedaled. I guess I thought you'd have a harder time with this arrangement." And there it was. The truth finally came out. Grayson had suggested an open marriage, expecting that I wouldn't really take advantage of it. He thought I'd sit at home miserable and alone, while he went out and had his fun. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. "Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you," I said coldly. "But yes, I am seeing someone, and yes, I am happier. Is that an issue for you?" Grayson looked like I'd slapped him. No, I guess not. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd actually do it. I finished for him. You didn't think anyone else would want me. That's not what I meant, he protested, but his face told me I'd hit the nail on the head. I shook my head, feeling a strange mix of anger and pity. I think we need to rethink this arrangement, Grayson, because clearly it's not working out the way you expected. Over the next few weeks, Grayson became increasingly agitated. He started staying home on his free nights, watching me like a hawk when I went out on mine. He tried to convince me to spend more time at home, suggesting we have more couple time. But the damage was done. I've seen a side of Grayson I couldn't unsee, and I discovered a side of myself I didn't want to give up. It all came to a head about 5 months into our open marriage experiment. I came home one night to find Grayson waiting up for me, a determined look on his face. "We need to talk," he said, echoing the words that had started this whole mess. I sat down, bracing myself for whatever was coming. "I want to close the marriage," Grayson announced. "This isn't working. We need to go back to how things were before." I looked at him for a long moment, really looked at him. I saw the man I'd loved for over a decade, the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. But I also saw the man who had underestimated me, who had taken me for granted, who had assumed I'd never be able to move on without him. "No," I said quietly. Grayson blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no, Grayson. I don't want to close the marriage. In fact," I took a deep breath, "I don't want to be married to you at all anymore." His jaw dropped. "What? Abigail, you can't be serious. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can..." I held up a hand to stop him. "Grayson, listen to me. This isn't about the open marriage, not really. This is about the fact that you suggested it in the first place because you didn't value what we had. You were willing to risk our relationship because you thought the grass might be greener somewhere else." "But I was wrong," he protested. "I see that now. I love you, Abigail. I want to make this work." I shook my head sadly. "The thing is, Grayson, I don't think I love you anymore, at least not in the way a wife should love her husband. You opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I can't go back to who I was before." Grayson's face crumpled. "Is this because of the guy you're seeing? Are you leaving me for him?" "No," I said firmly. "This isn't about James or anyone else. This is about me. I've discovered things about myself over these past few months. I've grown in ways I never expected, and I've realized that I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't see my worth, who doesn't challenge me to be my best self." Tears were streaming down Grayson's face now. "Please, Abigail, give me another chance. I'll do anything." I felt a pang of sympathy, but I knew I couldn't back down. "I'm sorry, Grayson, but my mind is made up. I think it's best if we separate." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and logistics. We told our families and friends, divided up our possessions, and started the process of legally ending our marriage. It was painful and messy, but underneath it all, I felt a sense of relief. I moved out of our shared apartment and into a small studio of my own. It was tiny, but it was mine. I filled it with my pottery creations, books I'd always wanted to read but never had time for, and plants that made the space feel alive. As for James, we decided to take a step back. I needed time to process the end of my marriage and figure out who I was as a single woman. He was understanding, saying he'd be there if and when I was ready. 6 months after Grayson first suggested opening our marriage, my divorce was finalized. I stood outside the courthouse, divorce papers in hand, feeling a mix of sadness and excitement. It was the end of one chapter of my life, but the beginning of a new one. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The sun was out, and I felt like I could breathe clearer than I had for years. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly free, free to pursue my passions, free to discover who I really was, free to find a partner who would value and support me. As I walked away from the courthouse, I was smiling all the way. Grayson had wanted an open marriage, thinking it would give him freedom while keeping me trapped. Instead, it had opened my eyes to my own worth and given me the courage to set myself free. Life is funny that way sometimes. What seems like an ending can often be a new beginning, and sometimes the twist in your story is that you become the author of your own happily ever after. And now, it's been a year since my divorce was finalized, and I can honestly say I'm happier than I've ever been. I've continued with my pottery class, and I've even started selling some of my pieces at local crafts fair. It's not much, but the feeling of creating something with my own hands and having others appreciate it is indescribable. I've also taken up hiking, something I've always wanted to try but never did because Grayson wasn't interested. Now, every other weekend, I strap on my boots and hit the trails. The peace I find in nature, the sense of accomplishment when I reach a summit, it's addictive. As for my love life, well, that's taken some interesting turns. James and I did eventually reconnect, and we dated for a few months. He's a wonderful man, and he taught me a lot about what I want and deserve in a relationship. In the end, though, we realized we were better as friends. We still meet up for coffee and the occasional pottery class, and I'm grateful for his presence in my life. I've been on a few dates since then, some good, some hilariously bad. Remind me to tell you about the guy who brought his mother along someday. But I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying getting to know myself, figuring out what I want out of life and love. Grayson? Well, that's a bit of a sad story. Last I heard, he was still single and struggling to adjust to life on his own. Part of me feels sorry for him, but a larger part knows that this is a journey he needs to take for himself, just like I did. Sometimes I think back to the night when Grayson suggested opening our marriage, and I want to laugh at the irony. He thought it would be a way to have some fun while keeping me safely on the sidelines. Instead, it was the catalyst for my own journey and self-discovery and independence. If I could go back and talk to my past self on that night, I'd tell her to buckle up for a wild ride. I'll tell her that yes, it's going to be hard and painful at times, but it's also going to be incredibly rewarding. I'll tell her that she's stronger than she knows, and that there's a whole world out there waiting for her to explore. But most of all, I'll tell her to trust herself, because sometimes the twist in your story is that you become the hero you've been waiting for all along. Life may not have turned out the way I expected, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Here's to open marriages, closed chapters, and the beautiful twists and turns that make life interesting. Here's to freedom, self-discovery, and the courage to write your own story. And here's to me, Abigail, potter, hiker, and author of her own Happily Ever After. Here are my thoughts about the story. Grayson, my guy, this dude really thought he could have his cake and eat it too. I mean, seriously? Proposing an open marriage out of the blue and expecting your wife to just sit at home twiddling her thumbs? The problem wasn't even the open marriage itself, though I can see the problems that introducing it might bring up. The problem is the fact that he brought it up out of the blue, expecting Abigail to just go with it and let him see other women while remaining as loyal as she was before. Seriously? Open marriage is a two-way street, buddy. But you know what? In a weird way, I kind of want to thank Grayson, because without his boneheaded move, Abigail might never have discovered her true potential. It's like he accidentally opened Pandora's box, but instead of unleashing evil, he unleashed Abigail's full Abigail. Now let's talk about our girl Abigail herself. Holy character development. The way she went from shocked and hurt to, you know what? Abigail is in, Grayson is out, was just chef's kiss. And those rules she laid down, brilliant. She took Grayson's half-baked idea and turned it into a structured agreement that gave her the space to grow. I gotta say, my favorite part was watching her blossom. From trying new hobbies to reconnecting with old friends, it was like watching a flower unfurl in time-lapse. And don't even get me started on the pottery class. As soon as James was introduced, I was ready for the new romance. But the way Abigail handled it, taking things slow and really thinking about what she wanted, that's some emotional maturity right there, folks. But I know some people might be thinking, but Alex, isn't this just a story about a woman cheating on her husband? And to that I say, nah, no way, Jose. This is a story about self-discovery, about realizing your worth, and about having the courage to walk away from a situation that no longer serves you. Abigail didn't leave Grayson for James. She left Grayson for herself. And that's a crucial difference. And guys, Grayson was the one to seek other women first. I'm not forgetting about how quickly he jumped onto his day for the open marriage. I'm suspecting he might have had someone specific in mind when he suggested it. You know, stories like this really make me think about relationships and what we expect from them. It's so easy to fall into routines, to take your partners for granted, to assume they'll always be there no matter what. But relationships take work, folks. They need nurturing, communication, and mutual respect. Grayson forgot that, and it cost him big time. Deserved, honestly. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.